Still gotta install the little. I need a transition coming in still. Just like comes in hot. It's like bam.
Always improving.
In my face. How's that? Does that look okay in the frame there? Okay. What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 11 of Irresponsibly Long. Yes, Champagne. This is some pro-level audio management. Thank you.
What's up, everyone?
So professional. I see Tensky in the chat. I see Nick. What up, Nick? Who else we got in there? I can't scroll. I can't see it. Oh no, technical glitch. All right. Well, if I didn't shout you out, I'm sorry. We'll have to fix that. Anyway, it is episode 11. We are having a bit of a week here. Things are a little darker than they were maybe 8 days ago. Went from euphoria. Now we're in. I don't know if panic is the word, but people are unsettled.
Less euphoria.
Yeah, less.
November, December was fucking awesome, and this is, I don't know. Someone call it expected. You know, you have like
some like you.
Well, I fucking am really enjoying these puts I bought, but I do think that, you know, anytime you have like a run up like we had, you can expect a little pullback along the way, right?
It's always the question, right? Is this a pullback or is this the beginning of the end?
Game over.
Is this the end of the leg up?
Game over,
know?
huh?
Oh, what's up, Nick?
What's up? I just wanted to check here.
Yeah, cool.
You're good.
Anyway, yeah, let's pull up a Bitcoin chart real quick just so people can see what we're looking at. If you can't see it, you're not watching us on Spotify or YouTube, so maybe consider doing that. Consider giving us a sub on YouTube as well at Irresponsibly Long Pod, so you could perhaps even join us live.
Yeah, everybody like this video,
Hang
by
out.
the way, while you're at it.
Like the video, do it. I know you want to do it. Anyway, yeah, we got the Bitcoin chart up. That yellow dotted line is the ETF launch, and coincidentally, it does correlate with the top of the market. We briefly traded above 48K. It went to 49K, and then we've since nuked down to 41K. I'm gonna call this a nuke. This is nuke status. We are down 16%.
Yeah, would you call this
short period of time?
I mean, would you call this confirmed sell the news, or is the jury still out on that?
Okay, that's a good discussion. I think. No, this is just nothing happened. This is just priced in my opinion.
Yeah.
Thus far,
well,
where are we?
Would you just say
same price we were the?
Well, what'd you say? It's down 16% from the top, or would you just pull up? I didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, I mean, we are down 60% from the launch, right? But we just sort of spiked up immediately there. Like, we're at the same price we were at December 11th, right? A day where the market sort of knew what was happening, a time of the year where we were considering and ultimately like did reduce some positions in the TradFi realm anyway. So yeah, we're just kind of back at square one right now. I don't personally think any panic is warranted.
Yeah, do you feel okay? That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I'd feel better if we were at 69K.
Yeah.
But this isn't like a huge concern to me. I think people can get a little stuck in the lower time frames when you look at these charts. You know, the reality is on the monthly, we took out that 48K high. Pretty normal to sell off on a level like that,
like
at least initially.
To give you credit, I mean, you called that as a target like from a while ago. You're like, yeah, I think we probably take out this 48K high and then have a bit of a retrace. I mean, I think that's what you call almost exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I've been planning this for a while, right? Like on the weekly chart. I mean, those of you who've tuned in here know that for a long time was sort of pointing out this period of accumulation we had in late 22, where we went sideways for I mean, basically like a year, you know, and then had that kind of nasty FTX sell off, only to be recovered very, very quickly, and then we've just sort of pushed up since then, right? So for me, I was always thinking like, where is price going? That's a question you're always asking yourself as a trader. And logical target to me was that 48K high.
Hang on, is our audio a little too soft? Should we?
Yours is a little soft.
Oh,
It looks
we got
fine on the road.
we got the tech in here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
The non-tech tech.
IT's in the building. Thank you, Nick.
Move.
Oh, I was wondering what he was doing here. Hold up, we're gonna fix this.
People are saying that the audio sound is really low. Maybe I can.
Eric sounds like he's coming off your mic, Steven.
He does?
Yeah, but on the road, he sounds
But
fine.
on the road, it's.
Well, that's not good.
So I did a sound test on the road.
Does the other mic next to you work?
It's not even plugged in.
Nothing's plugged in
But
except
tap
for
it just in case. You tap the other mic too. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, so that one's not on.
Maybe switch to that mic?
I can plug it in.
Yeah. Try switching the mic.
Hang on.
So it works fine on the road. It's not working on the stream. Yeah. Sounds about right.
This fucking Streamlabs is always a journey.
I have a new appreciation for all podcasts after doing this one. Try that guy.
2 mics coming
All
into
right.
my face.
We got a backup mic. And you look like you're gonna topple the table over. Careful there. Oh my! All right, say something to the crowd.
Mic check on this mic.
All right, he's mic checking the new mic. Hopefully that mic sounds better.
We got mics for days. Is this better?
We don't have mics for days. That's the last one. So that's the last one we're gonna get. Nope, sounds the same. Ah,
Must be
why?
some Streamlabs then.
Yeah.
Oh no. I mean that's
It's not terrible. Just Eric sounds a little quiet.
like a little quiet
Can you
or
move the
extremely quiet.
Can you move the slider up higher on? I think that's probably number 1.
Higher on one.
Just gonna have to max him out. And
Higher on 1. Mic check. Better. Better. Worse. Same.
this is scintillating content here.
Okay. Well, I think we just kind of have to go with it.
Is it so bad that you can't hear him at all?
No, you can hear him.
You can hear him. It's just a little awkward.
Yeah, it's just like a little faint, but it's fine.
Like I'm talking from another room. I want to put it right up to my mouth. Like my lip is touching this thing.
I'd say just roll.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're just having some software glitches, honestly, at this point.
It's always like this.
I'm blaming the software. Anyway, we're just gonna have to roll with it, guys. Hopefully,
I'm gonna have to project, maybe.
hopefully, this is still doable for you guys. Anyway, yeah, we were talking about the Bitcoin chart. Everybody and their mother. I don't think I was special in this 48K target, right? Like this is a thing everybody had their eye on. Part of the reason why I kind of think we're not done here. I think that when you talk about how price usually moves, right? You usually have an accumulation phase. You usually have often a period of manipulation where price sort of moves against that. Those of you who are familiar with Wyckoff or have looked into it, you know the concept of the spring. I think it's something that people see a lot on crypto Twitter. The spring is sort of the manipulation phase where you get this fake out in a different direction. And then you have expansion, right, which we've been doing for a while. The expansion phase is lovely. We've been in this for over a year at this point, although some phases of it. Now in retrospect they seem fine, but over the summer it was a little dicey when we consolidated. People thought we were going to die. But at the top of these legs, you usually have a period of distribution, right? The longs, the kind of smart money that's bought a bunch of stuff at the bottom, takes it to a level, they sell their coins, and then price retraces and sort of finds like a new equilibrium where people reaccumulate, and then if we're still bullish, we go onward and upward from there. Why I kind of feel like this isn't the end is that we haven't really done any distribution above this level. Like I wanted to see like a more prolonged period of time, right? Like you can see, for example, in the 2021 top, if we pull this up here, initially we set in a high, right around like 58K or so in the spring, and then we had a long period where we ran that high, ran another high, and price kind of distributed above that high. So we had a long period for people to like offload their bags, and then after that distribution was done, then we had a very, 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 very steep sell-off, and then we sort of entered into another period of accelerated accumulation, and then like accelerated distribution, right? Like the first accumulation took like almost a year because it was like the whole freaking bear market, right? And then this second period was just like a summer, and then the second distribution phase, if you pull up a Bitcoin chart in late 2021, you'll also see it was a lot faster, right? Now the phase we just went through is somewhere kind of in between, or the 2017, 2018, 2018, 2019 accumulation, and then like last summer, the summer 2021 accumulation. So like we were here a good amount of time. Like how long do we basically? So we capitulated, and then we went sideways. That was 100 and over 200 days, right? So the idea to me that we're just going to kind of wick over and just dump after like 200 days of accumulating in this like what kind of like long phase here of expansion it doesn't make sense to me. It's possible, like price can do whatever the hell it wants ultimately, but I feel like we're not done.
You're saying you feel like the bull market is not done?
No, I'm saying even this leg of the bull market is not done. Like in Bitcoin, like we commonly have this sort of like pre-halvening dump, and I use commonly in the the lightest of terms because we have like a sample size of 3 on this stuff, and like we had the COVID dump. Was that just an exogenous event, or was that something like that's like innate to Bitcoin? It could have just been an exogenous event, right? But I think a lot of people are focused on what happened last time, right? We did have that pre-halvening sell-off, where people kind of get hyped on the halvening, and then we dump going into it, and it's like people are like, what the hell happened? And then there's like this kind of like mini capitulation, and then we went up. That's what happened in the last time around for sure. But yeah, I see us here kind of like below this 48K level. We ran it a little bit, but we haven't really broken the higher time frame structure. Like if you kind of come into the weekly, the really important level is around like 40K, right?
Okay, so I mean this is helpful. Like so I had like a different, it's kind of like a more pleb view on this, but where I was thinking was kind of like, I'm gonna try to project into this mic so I can like get some volume in here.
Right.
But like from like a pleb standpoint, my thought was basically like I want to be sort of defensive in Q1, and that is probably just more like I've even talked about like the confluence of reasons why I want to be defensive in Q1, but the majority of it is just like we were feasting in November, December, and when you go feasting, like typically I think I got this from the Compound and Friends podcast, but it's kind of like you have a Thanksgiving meal, and the next thing you do after you feast is like you go lay down on the couch and you digest for a little while. So I was kind of feeling like this is a good period to digest, and I was kind of looking at January, mid-February as like our digestion period, and to pull back slightly seems like a natural thing to occur. I guess the question I had for you, which you kind of just answered, which is like, at what point do you get back off the couch and go for seconds? You kind of just mentioned that 40K level. One thing that I've learned from you and your beautiful lines is like you can sometimes look for the origin of the move, right? Like this is a phrase that you taught me. You look for the origin of the move, where like price started from before it had like a massive leg higher. Oh, what's happening?
I think I have an idea.
Okay, Steven has an idea.
I have an idea.
My voice sounds echoey now.
you're definitely coming through the MacBook speaker microphone.
Oh no.
I popped on the stream. I listened to it.
Fuck.
Worst episode ever.
This mic can go. So that's bad.
I'm gonna reboot the Rode guys. 1 second.
Show that crotch. Okay, we're rebooting the road.
Yeah, we gotta get this thing set up and tested. Man.
Steven, if you don't mind, just turn your body at 45 degrees to show the crotch.
Excuse me. Oh man. Don't put it on my butt. What are you doing?
Put it back to you.
What are you doing?
It's always something, man. So the road showed audio inputting.
Right, but like the audio has to be in, like the Rode has to be set up in the where's the audio input capture?
So yeah, it's saying Steven has second that too. It must be just because it's not on a laptop, not on a mouse. You did an analysis of the group and you might get a photo of yourself.
Eric, you didn't plug this thing into the laptop.
Here, I'll get it that one. Get it this one.
Fuck me, dude.
I was the one in Vegas, all.
Happening here.
How was your mic good? Oh, because you were closer to the laptop.
Yeah. Ah! Oh my God. Yeah. So.
How are we doing now?
Yeah, it's fixed now. It wasn't the microphone was not plugged into the laptop. Oh man. I kind of would just like start this whole thing over.
I take the L on that. That is that's my bad. I forgot to plug it in. That happened.
Oh man. I don't even know where to go from here.
Yeah. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Irresponsibly Long Podcast.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 11 of Irresponsible. Like, should we just open it there?
No.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're good. Okay, well, not going to pick up a whole lot of new subscribers from this episode, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna roll with it. Oh, now we turned Eric to the moon because we thought that was it, huh?
Thank you, Nick.
Good thing our sound tech is in here.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Anyways, we were talking about Bitcoin.
Yeah, we were talking about
Is this
Bitcoin.
current leg over? Is everything about to really dump? We're going to retrace maybe to 30K.
Okay, so
do we have more to go?
So yeah, my question to you was, to what degree do you feel like a retrace could, like, how far down could it go to maintain this bullish structure where, you know, we could see price come down and, you know, sort of like digest this like long up move that we experienced in November, December?
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, like, you know, 30K or so is totally fine. Like, we could go sub 30K. We go 28K. This is still structurally intact.
Okay,
on,
can you
like,
go to
the
a
weekly.
can you go to a little lower time frame? A little lower.
A little lower? You want the daily?
Maybe a daily.
Here's
Okay,
the daily.
so yeah, on the daily, I'm looking at a level here that is sort of at the mid-range of the yellow and green lines that you've drawn. Maybe not the exact mid-range, but
You're looking at this like a little vertical accumulation here?
yes, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Thank you for your nomenclature. Yeah, I mean, that kind of looks to me like origin of the move type.
It depends on like what context you're talking about. You know, price is fractal. There are moves on the 1 minute. There are moves on the daily. There are moves on the on the monthly. You know, but as like a longer term investor, you've really got to be focused on the weekly and the monthly time frames.
Okay.
And things look a lot clearer. Like if we zoom out to a monthly chart for Bitcoin, right? It's very simple to see where the higher lows are. Right, like your higher low on the monthly time frame is down here at like 25K. Now that would be like really painful, and then you could also make the argument that sort of like losing this 30K or so level puts you in a different range that you don't want to be in, and once you sort of like lose that range, we may be trading to the lower part of that other range, which is not a good thing. But I don't really see that happening, unless. I hate saying that in crypto, but realistically speaking, like we're kind of in a range between this shaded box here around like 30K and this level here, around like 48, 50K, call it. And I think the most plausible scenario to me is that we do kind of run up above here, maybe deviate back inside and do some sort of ranging before kind of making like the really big move. But like I think a lot of people expect something like this to happen with slight variance. Like one of the least common takes people have is that we actually just go sideways here and then rip up, which is plausible.
Well, I think the sideways part is what nobody's expecting, and
people have a bias in markets in general, or like especially in crypto, where they just think are we going up or are we going down? Like people aren't good at sideways, and when they try to trade sideways, things get very bad because they're basically like buying the top of the range and selling the bottom of the range like over and over and over and over again. And every breakout kind of comes back inside. Every breakdown comes back inside. They're just constantly on the wrong side of the move because like the nature of the market has totally changed.
Well, have you thought about? I'm going to get this mic a little bit away from my face now that we're plugged in. Have you thought about like the duration of sideways? Like in your mind, how long could we go? And of course, it could be any amount of time. But like when I've thought about it, I kind of see. Like Q1 in its entirety being like maybe like a sideways like moment. And part of what leads me to that conclusion is sort of macro. And I think you and I both hate that we focus on macro so much. Like, and over the last 2 years, it's been macro driven. But like one of my thoughts is like we've kind of priced in Goldilocks on a macro scale, on the macro side. So we priced in that J-Pow's done hiking. We priced in 6 rate cuts this year. We priced in inflation coming down as it has, like continuing to come down. And I think that for these next few months, it might not come in, the actuals might not come in as Goldilocks as we're expecting it to, as like price is expecting it to. So I feel like Q1 might be a sort of what you're saying, maybe sideways.
I don't think stocks and crypto care about the same things. I think stocks ultimately are going to have some sort of like earnings that they have to anchor themselves to, right?
Sort of. I mean,
I maintain that people like don't understand multiples right now. Like I maintain that there's a distortion in the bond market caused by the Fed, whereby the quote unquote risk-free rate is actually very different from like the 10-year, right? And
Yeah.
like we've talked about this a little bit on the program, how like the mortgage rate, there's like this huge delta right now between like the 10-year and the mortgage rate,
Yeah.
the 30-year, and people like Michael Howell from Cross Border Capital, George Robertson, who's a bit of a macro talking head on Twitter, like they've put forth like a really good case for why this is actually the true risk-free rate, right? Not like what's in the market, right? So everybody's looking at stock multiples on the basis of like the 10-year, and they're like, wow, stocks are actually like pretty expensive, because they're assuming that that is like the true market rate, but it's not. It's a distorted market rate, at least in my opinion, right? So when you consider that that rate is actually much higher, well, stocks suddenly don't look expensive. Like you can squint your eyes and say, actually, they're really, really, really cheap. And when you combine this with what I see is just a continued onslaught of liquidity into the market, you know, election manipulation, shenanigans, like I could kind of go on and on and on. There's no recession. I keep pounding the table. There's just no recession coming. Everybody has way too much cash. Everybody's like way too rich. There's just like the governments here and all over the world are just juicing everything. It doesn't mean we're not going to have pullbacks, right? But like Bitcoin, this move is like responding to that trend, you know, more so than anything. It's
Well,
responding to the liquidity.
I completely agree with you. And if you look at a stock chart like NASDAQ or S&P, we're at or near all-time highs there as well. So I think I agree with your main point. And what I would probably suggest is that by the end of 2024, we're much higher on both, you know, like both the stock indices and on Bitcoin. But I'm just trying to play the timing a little bit on like when a pullback comes, because like you said, doesn't mean there's not gonna be pullbacks. I feel like there are gonna be pullbacks, and while you might be correct on this take, which I think you probably are, like it takes a while for sort of the investing public to come around to that idea as well. So, you know, maybe it takes a while before people realize like, no, like the PE ratios that you were looking at 10 years ago don't apply anymore, because we have like a much wider monetary base and way more stimulation, etc.
Yeah. I just don't care about that stuff. Like,
no, but how about the timing?
You know,
how about the timing? Like, because at Bitcoin at 42K now could go down to 30K.
it could, but like it's probably going to go to like 150, 170 as like the first stop, right? So people have to ask themselves like how cute do you really want to be? Like there's three scenarios here, right? Like we could dump from here, we could sort of like consolidate and just rip up from here, or we could sort of pump up and then dump from here. But I think in all of those scenarios, we ultimately go higher. Like I don't.
Oh, it's got to go higher.
Only Capo thinks that we're going to dump to 12K or something.
Yeah,
I just don't. Like when I take a step back and look at what's happening, like I see Franklin Templeton just like sending it.
Let's talk about that.
Twitter.
Franklin
like,
Templeton.
Franklin Templeton.
Do you have the tweets up? Because this is pretty good.
I mean, you just have to like scroll through their feed. Like this guy is just doing so much cocaine. He's just posting.
Oh my god,
memes
dude!
And just like, it's like he's literally like, private blockchains are rehypothecation of the intermediary, and he's just like, just, speculation is a feature, not a bug in crypto. Like he's just like hit it a couple times, and he's on the couch, and he's just riffing at the party.
So
they got the laser eyes on Ben Franklin.
So in our Discord, people were asking, I think rightly so, asking, is this like a top signal? Franklin Templeton is going fucking balls deep into crypto. Is that a top signal? Any thoughts on that?
I think people like just like see something crazy happening and they just go like, oh, that's a top signal. But like what is a top signal? Like why are top signals a thing? I feel like from like a first principles basis, right? Like top signals are top signals because they sort of signify something to you that like sort of like the last buyer in line is buying. And then after him, there's nobody left, right? Like that was Elon on SNL shilling Doge. Okay, where did we go from there? Like, was Saudi Arabia going to add Doge to its like sovereign wealth fund? Probably not, right? I don't know for sure whether or not we're going to just dump from here, right? Like, what I do have like super high conviction in is that like one, I shouldn't be really levered at this point, right? Like the time to be like really, really, really aggressive was a lot lower when people were like a lot gloomier. Now we're kind of at like the top of the range. You know, when you're at the top of the range, sure you could break out, but like we want to be taking longs from like the bottom of the range or below the middle of the range, like where we have more upside than downside, right? So now is probably not the time to be putting your foot on the gas, right? But it's also not the time to be selling everything. Like if you have a long time horizon, like yeah, sure. Franklin Templeton's intern could be maybe that's a short-term top signal.
Maybe a local top.
Maybe, but like again, like people have so much PTSD because they see something that looks like something else, right? And they're like, oh, it's the same thing, right? We've gotten rugged. If you've been in this industry for as long as I have, you've gotten rugged like 30 times by now, right? So everything just looks like a rug. Once you're like kind of like an OG, you just have like a lot of PTSD. Maybe like the newer naive people who haven't been burned yet don't feel like that way. But if you've been around, like, yeah, you see top signals everywhere. You see rugs everywhere. But the futures ETF, right, or like CME futures, for example, was a different thing than this. Even though they look the same, they feel the same, they're different. Like this is new flows coming in. Like systematic new flows, right? This is the equivalent of we're going to get to a point where everybody sort of is like, okay, yeah, we have to have 1% in Bitcoin, right? And then much in the same way that like a chunk of everybody's paycheck in the entire country is like flowing into the S&P 500, you're going to have a chunk of everybody's paycheck in the country flowing into Bitcoin now via ETFs. And that 1 is going to go to 2, and that 2 is going to go to 5 because like as older people die off, younger people are going to have 10, 20, 50% of their portfolio in this stuff. Like we are like just
okay. So I actually
early innings.
I wanted to ask you about that, but I kind of want to hold off a little bit because I think you made a great point, which is like a top signal, a top means that there's no buyers left. And as a guy who manages money in TradFi, I can tell you there are so many buyers left. People are critically underexposed to Bitcoin and this asset class in its entirety, critically underexposed. And when they come in, everyone's going to feel it. And right now, it's not close to the top. I think one of our Discord users, Elevate Bliss, who works in the space, had a pretty good piece of alpha. He said like that Franklin Templeton is not actually as TradFi as you think. They've like been venture investing in crypto. They're kind of like on the forefront of crypto, more so than you'd think that they're like the late entrant. They're like an early entrant. And it shows now like that they're like so, I guess, active on their Twitter that like they're heavily in the space, and I feel like they're early. Like they're kind of like the early of the TradFi at least.
So as a person from the traditional world, like do you literally like advise people financially, right?
Yeah, literally.
Not on this podcast, but in your normal setting.
Not you guys, but clients. Yeah,
this is just your burner account, right? We're not doing client accounts on this podcast.
No, I like to talk about what I'm doing here, right. not what you should do. But
correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like I think one thing that's a big deal for people in this space is like if you have a client who comes to you and they're like, I have $1 million of cash, I want to get into the market. I'm guessing you don't on day one just like market buy NASDAQ $1 million and walk away, right? You probably dollar cost average in over a period of like at a minimum days, but probably weeks or even months, because nobody wants to be that guy, right, who puts all his clients' money in at the top.
We have
the whole thing is
we have a policy of over 365 days we will get in, but you know, I know from firsthand experience that once people become a client, they're like, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Go, 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 go. Even if you wait like 3 weeks, they're like, why haven't you gone yet? Yeah. And it's like, well, because we're playing a long-term game here. And just like you showed Bitcoin price, like, you know, somebody could have come in at 49K, like, go, go, go. And now it's at 42K, maybe we're going lower. And it kind of behooves you to act pragmatically. But you're right. Like it does take some time.
Yeah. And I say that because like our world of crypto, where people have like the attention span of a goldfish, right? Like something pumps and a week later it's dead and nobody touches it again, right? Or it's crazy, like the ADD people have. We're now in this different ball game where people move slowly. Big money moves a lot more slowly. And people are looking at the price like a week later being like, oh my God, it's over. To sell the news, we got scammed. I don't know what it is, but in reality, like it might be months before any of this capital like really starts flowing. It's like a slow moving freight train.
And hold on, you're exactly right. And I'm pretty sure we said this explicitly, but that was my whole reason why this would be a sell the news event. It's because the systematic flows that you described happen over a long period of time. They don't just happen on day one. You saw some come in on day one, but that is like some droplets out of the faucet when we're talking about a long-term systematic inflow to this asset class, and particularly Bitcoin. So like that's why I thought it'd be sell the news. Whether it is or not, you know, I feel like we're going much higher in the long term. That's all I care about.
Let's like stop for a second, just reflect on the sell the news, like with the benefit of hindsight. Like what you and I talked about on the show, like literally happened. Like we were sitting here in December saying like, hey, like crypto proxies, like MicroStrategy, like Coinbase, like Bitcoin miners have run up tremendously. Like I think Coinbase is a great example of this, right? Like Coinbase, from the time BlackRock announced, basically did a smooth 200%
with no down bars.
It was epic, and it's now down 35% from the highs, right? MicroStrategy, another one. MicroStrategy is down 35% from the highs. Mara, the largest Bitcoin miner that people have exposure to,
down more,
is down 48% from the highs, right? So a part of me is like, okay, like a couple of things we can learn from this. Like one, yeah, it was priced in to a degree. Two, it was not priced in everything, right? Like Bitcoin itself actually didn't move. Like Bitcoin from December 11th to today is the same price. Mara from December 11th to, actually, where is Mara December 11th? Oh, same price actually. It just, that's kind of funny. Wow, it ripped like 130% from, okay. So
yeah, this is
we're back where we started now, right? So I think it's a valid question to ask yourself, like, did it already happen? Like, is it over? Like, we just ripped the Band-Aid off and everybody's like, oh my God, there's more around the corner. But in reality, like, we've already had just immense rapid dumping. The dumping the likes of which Degen Spartan would be very proud. Is it over now? Like, should you just start getting back in? I think it's a valid question to ask.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Like, because I'm still incredibly bullish on Coinbase. I'm still incredibly bullish on basically Bitcoin, ETH, all crypto ecosystem. If Bitcoin goes higher, then I should very well be bullish on Bitcoin miners because they are higher beta. You just showed how Bitcoin came down. Like Bitcoin went up what 30%, and the Bitcoin miners went up by 300%, something like that, something crazy. Then Bitcoin went down from 49K to 42K, and the Bitcoin miners are down 48%. So these are in fact high beta Bitcoin. Like that's what you'd expect if you're buying high beta Bitcoin. The down moves are stronger on the downside, and the up moves are stronger on the upside.
The thing that concerns me about the miners is not only did you have the sort of ETF trade going on, you also had this confluence of extraordinarily high fees on Bitcoin. Those fees have rolled over, and I don't think that like ordinals transactions are like extraordinarily like correlated to the ETF. Like I think that was just like a happy coincidence. It's like I feel like it's not like, oh, the ETF happened, let's stop minting NFTs on Bitcoin. Like that seems like a
agree with you
additional variable that I think is worth considering. Like, will those
so have you followed sort of the ordinals game, the BRC20s? Like I know that has come down significantly, but is that game over? Because that would be meaningful, I guess, in a way. It's like 10%.
I don't think that game is over, but like when I have capital and I think about where to put it right now, like Bitcoin miner charts do not look appealing to me anymore. They just don't. Like they broke very hard. And if you have a really long thesis, right, long investment horizon for your thesis, sure, you can start buying here. But like in a world where I also think there's this scenario where Bitcoin runs into the mid-high 50s and then like has sort of like a mid-cycle top, miners are just going to get wrecked even more. Like they'll go to a lower high and then dump much lower than where they are now. And that's not really appealing to me. Whereas like if that does happen, right, then the miner trade might look interesting. Like if we run up, dump, and then like miners just really like Mara goes back down to single digits, that might be a really interesting trade again.
Well, yeah, I mean, when we looked at this originally, it was because Mara was down significantly while Bitcoin was actually rising. Like Bitcoin was at like, I don't remember, 38K or something, and Mara stock was lagging that move entirely. So I agree with you. I think one thing we talked about on this show or Alfalfa is that these miners, it's better to look at them. It's like they're not just high beta Bitcoin. They're kind of like those levered ETF products like a TQQQ. You ever looked at that one? That's like a 2 or 3 times levered NASDAQ. And with those securities, with those assets in particular, they literally just bleed value all the time. Like just because the way the leverage works, they're always getting worse until you get like a sharp move and then they fucking moon. And that's exactly what happened with the miners.
I think the miners, I think Coin, I think MicroStrategy, like I put up Mara and Coin on the same screen. It's the same chart.
It's the same chart.
Like this Coinbase chart should not look identical to a Bitcoin miner chart. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, so
they're identical because the chart and the price movement, in my opinion, like with the the benefit of hindsight now, is literally just it's all a gigantic pre-ETF TradFi proxy trade. That was what it was before. Now we're seeing the unwinding of that. Where does that unwind to? I don't know, but it's probably like if you're bullish on crypto, I think it's a better time to just go play in actual spot crypto right now because you're not dealing with that unwinding force when you're just buying spot Ethereum, right? And if you want to jump back into the waters right now on Coin or like a Bitcoin miner, where is that trade done? Like that's like a current you're swimming against, and it's not necessarily tied to the fundamentals of that particular asset.
I agree with that, but I don't really want to ask the question spot crypto versus Coinbase. I kind of want to ask like Coinbase versus the Bitcoin miners. Like in my opinion, the answer is Coinbase, and it's like by orders of magnitude. Like one is a business that you want to own, over a long term, and one is a business that fucking sucks. Like Coinbase, I'm very interested in buying more here. It's just the question is when. And you know, I was talking to you offline. Like you have like taught me a lot about reading the price levels on charts and stuff. One level that I looked at when we were trading at like 190 or whatever, I was like, yeah, 145. We pull back to there. I'd be interested. And that's like where I sold my puts, bought my puts. I bought like 150 puts, 140 puts. Those are all levels that I was like, oh, maybe I'd buy back here. We went right through that. And then
it's because your time frame is too low.
Okay, but then I was also looking at 115 level, and
there's I mean,
well, I mean, I don't know how to read these charts, but I'm asking you now. Yeah. I'm asking you, like, what are the levels that you're looking at? Like, what are the levels that you're interested in?
Yeah, I mean, well, like we have a weekly coin chart up on the screen, right? And look, if you go into the 4 hour, if I click to the 4 hour, you see some higher lows, and your mind's like, oh, that's like support, whatever. In reality, when you zoom out, it's just up candles, right? There's no demand in any of these areas, right? We just went straight up. Demand is where you're going to see like the down candles before like a big up move, right? So if you zoom all the way out to the weekly, you don't really see that happening until the 115 level at the very highest that you pointed out. And, you know, you have this sort of 70 to 115 level is gigantic, like higher time frame demand is where price looks like it's going right now. Like, so you not only have to be concerned with where is demand, you have to be concerned with momentum, right? Like how fast is price moving? How strongly is price moving? And that's where we talk about this concept of gaps, right? Like if you pull up a weekly chart, you have two really big gaps on the weekly right now. That's a sign of like really strong momentum. So if you're buying here, probabilistically speaking, like you're probably going to be underwater over the next like few days or weeks, because that momentum is like a real thing. And you know, if you're investing for the long term and you're just DCAing at these levels, I think that's totally fine. But if you're trading, you want to see some of that downside momentum slow down. Like you want to stop seeing gaps. You want the length of those expansion candles to get smaller and smaller. You want to, on like the daily time frame, start seeing, you know, some signs of bullishness, like ideally inside that demand. And then you can kind of talk about maybe getting long again. But like if I'm not buying anything until under 115, right? And then I'll probably feel cool just DCAing in this kind of sub 115 zone. But like even right here, like I'm not rushing out to buy more coin even at 124.
Well, I noticed you have the I think these are the standard deviations.
These are just this is actually an optimal trade entry, OTE as we call it. Like you want to buy stuff relative to like if you look at price as like a leg, right? So say like this is a leg here from 70 to 188.
Hell of a leg.
If you're a trader, you want to be buying price you want to be buying in a discount of a range, right? Like so, below the 50% level.
Okay.
You want to be selling in a premium. Like you want to be skewing like the odds of your favor.
And where's the 50% level on this leg?
We're like 128.
Okay.
So we're
like right there,
approaching like, you know, a discount of this particular leg. But you could also view the leg as like a yearly move, right? In which case, you know, 109 or so is sort of like the range equilibrium of like the entire move from the bottom, right? So you, as a trader, you have all of these things in your head. The higher time frame stuff dominates the lower time frame stuff. Like you need to be understanding what the high time frame is doing if you're making lower time frame moves. Otherwise, price is going to do things, and you're going to be confused at why like that 1 hour level you had didn't hold. You know, but I don't know. I think most of the people listening like probably shouldn't be on anything other than the weekly or the monthly chart. And like when you look at the weekly chart, like I said, you see strong downside momentum. You see it moving towards a zone that I think is a good buy zone. and like that's probably where I'm buying, and I'm probably buying via like DCA in that zone.
Yeah. So like, I'm sort of like on the record being bearish Q1. I had my puts in December in anticipation of this. Those puts have fucking performed. You know, like when we first talked, like the first week after the new year, I was like, oh my God, my hedges are not hedging. And now they fucking are. You know, these hedges are up massive. And my play is going to just like take the profits from the hedges, go back into long. And I want to, I guess, just like time it right. I feel like this 115 level that you've pointed out is very helpful. And, you know, I think over a long period of time, I have no problem buying there.
Want to see an interesting chart?
Yeah.
This is the Robin Hood Coinbase ratio.
Okay. Chair's right in my way. Okay.
Oh yeah, we're gonna move that chair for you.
No, it's okay. I'll deal with it. But
Possible double bottom. Hood outperformance of Coinbase from here.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's it's interesting. Like Hood on the dollar chart it's kind of gone back into that level. You'll recall like weeks ago I was like, I'm buying a little here just so I have a bag. Momentum's super strong. I don't know if it's gonna come back, and if it does, I will buy more. I still feel the same way about Hood. Like I still see a really long accumulation phase here, and I'm happy to kind of buy in this range because I think when it breaks out of this range, it could really run. You can see we kind of had a failed breakout, right? Like we kind of swing failed 13, and then boom, back inside the range. But I think that buying anywhere here, you know, from like $8 to $10 or so, is kind of where I want to accumulate. And I like kind of DCAing in this instance because like I don't see like really obvious level. I just want to accumulate in this range, get kind of like a good average price because I'm thinking like if this is a good trade, right? It's got a lot of room to run to the upside.
Yeah, and Hood I'm particularly interested in because, you know, while crypto has its own cool narrative, like people like trading, period. And like Robinhood, I think it was like 35% of retail crypto trades are happening on Robinhood.
Yeah.
That's fucking massive. But also there's so much fucking speculative activity, options activity. Like they can make money in TradFi as well. And if 2024 goes the way that I think it does, then we'll see speculation come back into the market in droves.
Yeah,
And-
I agree. I think we're running back 2021.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Maybe even dumber this time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm open to that possibility. But like the animal spirits aren't really there yet in TradFi or in crypto.
Well, yeah, you look at this Robinhood chart and stocks back down to the bear market lows almost.
Yeah, it's it's basically like chain link
Yeah.
chart.
Yeah.
Maybe it goes sideways like this for a year, and we're just like, come on.
Come on, do something,
something.
please.
It's possible, but yeah, it's a interesting stonk still. I think I still like that. Anyway, let's pivot back to crypto for a little bit because I want to kind of talk about like what I'm doing and what I'm thinking
Yeah.
right now. This is obviously all subject to change, right? But again, like when I look at the Bitcoin chart, yeah, it looks kind of ugly on the lower time frames a little bit, but in reality, it's, you know, we ran a level and we're sort of holding in a range now, and we've had a big sell off in alts this week. But this is like kind of one of those interesting situations, right? Like it never feels good to buy the altcoins right before they rip and make tons of money, because it's usually at a time like this where Bitcoin is dumping and you're like, oh my God, Solana sold off 9% today. If Bitcoin actually dumps, it's going to dump 15 tomorrow and then 10 the next day, and I'm going to have no money left by next week, right? Because that's entering your mind. But I think there's a few reasons why like the risk reward here might be really good. So first of all, like I think if Bitcoin closes sub 40 on the weekly, it's probably over for a bit. probably a good time to de-risk. Certainly don't be like leveraging there, right? But I'm kind of going to assume that we're going to hold here until proven otherwise, and then also like potentially like run back up into the 50s, which is going to obviously be like mega bullish as well. But like when I look at the altcoin market, the first thing I look at is the total 3 chart, which you can pull up in TradingView. Because
and what's total 3 again? That's
total 3 is the crypto market cap minus Bitcoin minus ETH.
okay.
I actually I'm curious to do this. I used to also subtract out
Stable coins.
stable coins, like so you could also go minus USDC.
So this ends up being
minus
like
USDT.
just like the altcoin market cap chart.
Yeah. And I think that makes it. Oh, that changes the chart for me a little bit. That's interesting. I'm glad I did that. So I've been previously like looking at this weekly chart here, and it doesn't look good anymore when you subtract out the stable coins, actually.
Yeah, and I think like if you were looking at it, you'd probably want to take away the stable coins because
this is an interesting spot. Like I have this. It's gonna be hard to describe this level, you know, if you're not on video. But like this is like a pretty key level, right? Like this is a level that was initially resistance in the prior bull run, tested it as support on the summer dump, you know, pretty clean, same level, and then ultimately, you know, we kind of capitulated through that. So on this chart, yeah, it looks like we sort of failed to hold it, and now we're back inside. Yeah, something to think about. I'm reassessing how I feel live, and the reason this is different is because if you just take total 3 and you include the stable coins, like this chart looks totally different. Like the same support here is you know, you can see on a weekly, we actually closed above and held it.
I see what you're saying. So like this line would act as support if you don't include the stable
like I'm
coins.
charting from the sort of lowest weekly
Yeah.
close. So without the stable coins, yeah, it looks like even on the daily you can, but it is a very clean interaction with this level, right? Like you can see we sort of resistance broke above, retested, and now we're sort of like holding above there. So if this like continues on this chart, you know, I would expect us to run up, you know, towards at least this level here, you know, 640 billion, which is a good gain. Like what is that? That's probably like 50% or so. No, 30%, 35%, possibly all the way to the top of this shoulder here, which is like the 76% move. So,
I mean, we ultimately will go there. It's just like what path do we take to
but
get
like
there?
I think it is an interesting question right now. Like how much altcoin risk should you be taking on right now?
I'm like anti, because I think Q1's gonna fucking suck, and I don't think that like crypto decouples from risk assets. Like I still think it's just the same thing. It's the same trade, just higher beta. It's like, and we've talked about this a lot, but I haven't seen otherwise. And I think, you know, we're just gonna go through this digestion phase where like you don't want to own risk right now, and like particularly not the highest risk.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is when everybody wants to own risk, it's the worst time to own risk. And when nobody wants to own the risk, it's usually the best time to own risk. And I'm not saying that like alts are definitely going to rip here, right? But but we just, from a risk reward standpoint, right?
We just rallied so strong over the last 2 months. Like, look what this chart just did on that last leg. I mean, isn't that sort of like
we haven't done shit yet. Like Ethereum still has to come up another 45% to take out the equivalent high that Bitcoin did, right? So missing that move would hurt.
Well, I own a lot of Ethereum, so I hope this fucking move happens. But
a lot.
I have a lot of that.
The Ethereum chart looks much better than the Bitcoin chart as well, right? And if you want to use like Ethereum as like sort of a proxy for alts and the health of the altcoin markets, right? Like you have a much healthier looking chart, whereas on Bitcoin you've sort of like on lower time frames broken structure. Like here you've got kind of like a clear consolidation, a clear breakout move above, and this just looks like a retrace, right, into demand with like a huge move up. Like this is a chart. Like if you just showed me this chart, you didn't tell me what was happening in the world, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm buying the crap out of that chart, especially if I can get it back in the box there. And you know the mid range of that box is 2278 or so on ETH price, but you know sometimes these really strong moves don't give you much of a retest of that box. So ETH looks pretty strong to me. I'm like really long ETH. I'm sort of neutral on Bitcoin. I think the ETH beta is an interesting play. The idea of kind of
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about layer 2s, LST, Gov coins. So I first want to ask you, like, are the actual prices showing that these are high beta ETH? Because like we treat them as such, like Optimism, Arbitrum, Lido, but like are the actual charts showing that they are high beta ETH?
I mean, this is an ARB ETH chart.
Yeah, that looks high beta.
Like we're up. We were up 100% versus ETH up until a few days ago, and we're still up basically 55% versus ETH from December.
Yeah,
right?
And I think if it was high beta, I'd also want it to. I'd like want to see it pull back more sharply when ETH does come down too. Like,
yeah, and the ARB ETH chart is a little sketchy right now. You can squint and see a double top for sure. It is down 20% from the highs for what it's worth. I think that's in the back of my mind as I'm doing this is the memories of the 2021 cycle, because at the beginning of the cycle everybody was like, oh, DeFi is high beta ETH, and it was
for a time,
for a short period of time, and then it was freaking trash, right? Like if we pull up like a Aave ETH chart, for example, you can kind of
oof.
God.
Oof.
This chart doesn't even go back enough.
Yeah, this isn't even that good of an example.
Maybe Maker or maybe Synthetics.
Synthetics would probably be good.
Better. You got to get like a chart with all the data though. Is the problem? I don't know how much data these TradingView charts have. Anyway, I mean this thing started. It started low. You have to take my word for it. It started
right
near where it is now. I mean, in a matter of like 6 months, you're down 85% versus ETH.
Okay, so
like it's a very nasty move.
Okay, so because this happened to people like me and everybody else, like, remember when you said that like everybody had a little PTSD going through the bear market and they were like afraid to call this like a bull market again and like we're sidelined for too long?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a possibility that the same thing is happening with this trade where it's just like, oh, like Gov coins don't perform against ETH and, like this high beta ETH thing is busted because I already saw it happen in 2019 or whatever. Like, is that a possibility? Is that something you're thinking about? Or are you actually on the side of like, no, I've seen this just wreck people?
I think that like layer 2s are going to wildly outperform throughout the bull, and I own them, but I don't own like a lot of them. I feel like I own an appropriate amount relative to the ETH I own. Like, especially if you get in them at the wrong time, like you just eat like a, like if you bought the top of like the Optimism pump like 6 days ago, you already ate like a 30% drawdown on your ETH. Like this stuff is violently.
Okay, so let me ask you then another nuance. The layer 2s seem to have like a different fundamental narrative than like something like Lido, where Lido is much more akin to that old school DeFi stuff. Sort of like a worthless Gov coin.
I feel like the Lido ETH chart is like one of the better looking ones, oddly enough.
Okay, let's look at this chart.
Like when I look at the Lido ETH chart, like I see a very long. It's almost as though somebody's just painting the damn chart for me to like see it this way.
Okay, what are you seeing? Okay,
I just see like higher highs, lower lows, higher highs, lower lows, higher highs, lower lows, and these are on
higher lows.
Yeah, sorry, higher lows. These are on very long time horizons, right? And then right now I'm getting a retrace into like basically like a monthly order block, right? So buying here presumably to go to new all-time highs on the ETH ratio, and then you're looking at 80%.
Okay, so just for the people who
versus
aren't
ETH.
watching live, what's the price of Lido right now, and where's that box below that
Well,
you
price
just
of
drew?
it in ETH is 0.00121.
Oh,
But,
you did it in
this
ETH
is an ETH
terms.
chart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's what we care about. We're
Right. It has to
trying
be
to beat ETH.
Yeah, it has to
otherwise,
beat
like, why
ETH.
do you own the stupid thing?
Right.
I also think that the Lido USD chart is really good. Like, it's an interesting spot for me. Like, I've called out like Arbitrum, Optimism for layer 2s as high beta. We've called out Lido and Pendle as like high beta.
Right, Pendle
for,
is like
the
a-
staking narrative.
Yeah, that's your
Blur,
call.
I think is like an interesting play.
Yeah.
But even within the L2s, like the ARB chart looks a lot better. Like the OP USD chart like looks kind of bad to me, honestly. Like it looks like what I think I said is going to happen to Bitcoin, which is that, we basically went to an all-time high, and now we kind of went above it, but like this looks like distribution. Like this is kind of like what I thought would happen to Bitcoin. Like you spend time above it, but you're just kind of like running some highs. You're unable to really get above there. This looks really toppy.
Just because I can recognize patterns, I guess, but like this looks exactly like what you showed. I guess like what Bitcoin looked like in 2021. Like this was like a new all-time high, and then it was just over.
Yeah, and like you can draw your favorite Wyckoff, schematic on here, right? Like here's your maybe initial supply. You get a buying climax. Got a sign of weakness here. Got an up thrust here where you run it. Maybe you get your up thrust after distribution. Like if I get this, like
You short
I'm
that?
just like out. I mean, I'm probably just gonna TP heavily. I'll be up like 300% on like most of my OP, and it's just like because like if this breaks down, you're going back to $2, and that'd be painful to go from $4.40 to $2, especially if you have some of that would be cap gains for me possibly by the time it happens. I don't know,
Dude, that's interesting because I see this price now coming down, and I'm interested in buying a 2-handle now.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It looks gross to me. Sometimes in crypto things look gross and they don't play out gross. I could be totally wrong here, but it looks sketch. Versus like look at like the Lido. That's the wrong Lido chart, but like look at the Lido USD chart. Right, this just looks a lot cleaner to me, especially if I go to a daily. You just have a higher high here, and then you're coming back into demand, and there's nothing disgusting looking about this, right? You made a higher high, you closed above, you had a strong move, you're retracing back into demand. I don't know, yeah, I guess if you lose 270 or so, it looks bad, and you're gonna probably reaccumulate lower, but like this looks fine. And then like you pull up like a chart of like Pendle. Right, where's Pendle? Like, that's just up only.
Yep.
Like, look at that chart versus the OP chart. It's like, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. The counter to what I'm saying is that if you zoom out on OP, like if you just pull up like a monthly chart, looks a lot better now. Right? You just had like a huge monthly move. You closed above the all-time high. Like, sure, maybe we dip a little bit. Maybe we close the month here and you you're left with like a fair value gap and you poke into that. That's still a nasty move though. It's still like 270 if that happens, but on the monthly chart, it would look like nothing. So it's just kind of a question of like your time horizon, like what time frame you're trading on.
And like how cute you're trying to get.
Yeah, OP is super volatile. Like this coin is really fun to trade because it moves so much. Like I think this thing is like way more volatile than even Solana, to be honest. That might not be true, but it's got like at least a comparable volatility. Like it puts in some enormous moves, both up and down. But yeah, I feel like less good about it. Like even like Blur, I think looks better now than OP. Obviously, it's a different sort of trade, but you know this chart looks a lot better. It looks like we want 85 cents. I hope. At least.
Where are we at on Blur? I own this thing.
All right, like 62 cents now.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, and I'm good because I bought this. You know, I bought this tap into this zone here, and I also bought this tap here. So far so good on the entries. I've been patient on that one. It's interesting to note that like one of the coins that people talk about a lot is Matic, but like Matic ETH especially, like this looks terrible. I know last week we talked about how they're going to launch a new coin. Maybe you could look at this chart and be like, oh, it's a double bottom. But it looks awful. It looks awful. So yeah, maybe fresh chart saves it, but the ETH chart looks really bad. Like
right, because they're going to come out with a new ticker, I guess.
We talk about how shitty ETH did last year, but like if you bought this coin at the wrong time last year, like you lost 63% versus ETH.
Damn. In
a year where people were like, ETH's not doing that good. So yeah, it's dangerous, like diversifying away from ETH too much.
Well,
like chasing the siren song of the beta.
I mean, okay, so this is like the biggest question on my mind is exactly what you're describing, which is like these like higher beta trades, which aren't necessarily higher beta. This is like what I'm thinking about because I have the entire investable universe, you know, in front of me. I'm not crypto only. I'm not stocks only. I can invest in anything. And I'm wondering, particularly now when you can put crypto in your retirement account, right, through like a Bitcoin ETF, it's like, what is the right allocation mix now? And like, I don't think traditional advisors are prepared for this question. Like, if this is a question that I don't know the answer to, no one in my realm knows the answer to this. And like I'm wondering, you know, like we had like a value versus growth tilt, or you know, we have like an income versus growth tilt for certain clients. You know, this is like a way that people manage money.
Yeah.
And now that like we have growth bifurcated again, where it's like you have like tech stocks, Magnificent Seven, but then you can also put Bitcoin in your retirement account. It's like, well, that changes everything, doesn't it? Like,
I feel like it doesn't really change that much. Not Bitcoin anyway. From my perspective, like Bitcoin isn't growth. It's not tech. It's like it's basically gold. Like I think it's kind of like gold.
Yeah, I mean, like in what it does,
gold.
In what it does, but the price doesn't support that. Like the price moves have been much higher than gold's price moves, going back to whatever time period you
but
look
like
at.
the correlation, like you can't look at Bitcoin and be like, oh, it's basically NASDAQ. It's not. Like it doesn't actually it's one of the more like uncorrelated assets to the stock market. I think if you like zoom out on your time horizons, like there are periods of time where it goes 1-to-1, but I think if you zoom way out, I've seen that the correlation's not like so. I think like replacing NASDAQ with Bitcoin is a bad idea because you're not getting the same thing. I think it's interesting to think of like something like Ethereum or Solana, especially as like maybe a part of that.
Right. And now like we've identified that like certain brokerages, like Interactive Brokers is what we run on. And in Interactive Brokers, you can buy Ethereum or Solana Chainlink, like all through Paxos is like their clearinghouse. So it's actually owned in Paxos, but you can trade it on your Interactive Brokers account in TradFi.
Mm-hmm.
So like with that being the case now, you know, I'm confronted with like this whole new paradigm that I think I'm like sort of at the bleeding edge of this from my world. You know, I don't think my peers are even considering this as an option, but I'm thinking about like, well, if you were trying to have a growth engine in a portfolio for a client, I do think that crypto exposure probably moons harder in 2024 than NVIDIA does, for instance. And even though NVIDIA might moon.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think crypto has a ton of catching up to do. Like this is a good chart. I think like this is Ethereum versus the Nasdaq. It hasn't moved yet.
Right.
Hasn't moved. It's still consolidating.
Yeah.
It still hasn't even broken out of its range. Like
Nasdaq's at all-time highs, and ETH is down 50% from its highs.
Yeah, I think people are really sleeping on Ethereum. It's definitely lulled people to sleep. The ratio is at a lower point than it was in 2018 at the moment, which is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. So if this rips, I mean, and something like Arbitrum actually does behave as high beta ETH, like the gains that you might get in those tokens could be like really, really astronomical,
right.
Actually.
And that changes the sort of the landscape of like how portfolios are built, right? Like I think we're underestimating this move, right? Like we're talking about trickling money in from TradFi into crypto, but once people start to realize, no, wait, this is like part of your growth engine, that can really move these token prices that are at like much lower market caps than what we're used to.
Yeah, they just have to be like seen and accepted as tech. And I think what's interesting about the layer 2s versus like Solana is I think there's a more direct path, whether you agree with it or not, to sort of connecting a layer 2's revenue model to something that's more analogous to a tech company versus something like Solana or Ethereum, right? Like people are fond of giving Ethereum like PE ratios. Like people who listen to me know that like I hate that because you're not. What are you earning? You're
earning
it's like
the
this,
native token.
Yeah, it's just like this recursive loop sort of. It's not like you earn USD, right? And you're sort of doing like a buyback of sorts, and I think you know that like buybacks are not the same as dividends, right? Like the market treats them differently.
Yeah. I mean, they're not the same, but
you'd rather have a dividend than a buyback, right?
No, not necessarily.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So
why? Taxes?
No, not even that. That is a factor, but that's not even like with stocks, for instance. Like this is a very simple idea. Like when a company makes money, you own the company. The company can choose to disperse its earnings in any way it wants to. If it chooses to reinvest in itself, meaning like buy back its own shares, that makes sense as long as it can earn more on a percentage basis, like than the dividend yield is in absolute terms. Mm-hmm. Like Warren Buffett's talked about this at length. That's why Berkshire doesn't issue a dividend; it does buybacks because their like ROIC, their return on invested capital, is much higher by buying back their stock than it would be by issuing like a 3% dividend yield. So like, I'm still personally on the fence on this. Like, Ethereum can't be valued based on its like earnings. Like, I think it can. I don't know how, but I'm still reluctant to accept this thing that you're completely sold on.
What am I completely sold on specifically?
That you can't like apply a PE ratio to ETH because it's like recursive in its way.
It's just kind of math. But
I mean,
there may be some model there that like we haven't.
Well, like in simple terms, is like you could just dump your ETH yield for dollars when it comes in. I mean, that's one way to do it.
Sure, but like, why is the price, like, you're like, oh, well, you can dump it because the price of ETH is 4,000, but why is the price of ETH, why are your dollars worth 4,000 in ETH in the first place? Like, because the price of ETH could be $500 and the PE ratio would be the same. And you're just sort of like, oh, well, but why is the price 4,000 versus 500? That's the thing. Like, I can't wrap my head around. Anyway, back to the L2s. Like, I can't decide yet if they're like the greatest investment like ever that we're just like seeing, or if they're going to be like Dino DeFi coins ultimately. Because I can definitely see the case where you're like, okay, these things basically are they sort of disintermediated like Ethereum from the user, right? They sit here, stuff is built on them. ETH takes care of all of the security budget. They don't need to have any sort of native inflation for the security budget, which is like a cost that something like Solana does have to have, right? And they're not doing like a buyback thing. Like, there's literally like demand. Like, if you have like, if you run a sequencer on an L2, right? There's value in deciding which transaction goes where. That's just like, there's like economic value to that, and then you can see how that economic value can flow to the token, and then I feel like you can pitch this model to somebody who's like a TradFi person, and they can get like, oh, people are paying for
order flow. Yeah, it's just,
I understand that.
It's the pay for order flow model.
Yeah. So,
but I think so. We had a good discussion about this in the Discord. You know, somebody brought this exact topic up and was like, well, where does the value accrue ultimately? And I think it's like, first of all, it's too early to identify because let's take the OP token as an example. Like, it doesn't accrue any value today, even though it does generate revenues running their sequencer. None of that revenue ever goes back to the OP token holder. I guess they probably lean on regulatory as like the excuse, or maybe that's the reason. But like, we get no value as an OP token holder. It's speculative value, just like Uniswap token. So as of today, there is no value in it. I could see where value does accrue the same way I can see where Uniswap token value accrues.
Couldn't you argue that something like OP is like way more obvious, like way more obviously has value than like imagine like a early stage startup, right? That's kind of like the same thing where you're like, oh, well, I'm valuing this thing because in the future all this stuff is going to happen. Whereas with like something like OP or Uniswap, you're like, it's literally happening right now, and I just have to turn a switch on. Like, right. Isn't that more valuable? I mean, I guess it is, and the market seems to think so. Like, these things are worth billions of dollars versus early stage startups are worth millions or tens of millions.
Right. So
maybe that already is the case.
Maybe it is. I guess I had something. The question that I'm wondering, first of all, like, let's just put all this aside. We said this in the Discord too. I think many people said the same sentiment, which is like, don't even worry about it so much. Like, think about how these things are going to trade and consider that over the fundamentals over the long term anyways, which I agree with. But I think when I think about OP, the fat protocol thesis comes back into play, where it's like, does the value accrue to the application layer or to the protocol layer? And then if it is the protocol layer, then like, what accrues the value between the protocols? Like, is it the L2 protocol or is it the layer 1 ETH protocol accruing the value? And I don't know, maybe a better question for Dave Hoffman or something, but I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah, and neither does he.
Nobody
knows the answer to this stuff. Like, this stuff is, you're so early on all of this. I think it's a mistake for somebody like me who's really actively trading. I think it's fine to pick a coin or two and just go all in or all out or pivot on that. But like, if you're like, I'm investing for the next 10 years, I'm going to build a portfolio and not touch it, and like all you buy is Ethereum, that seems like crazy to me. Like, I just don't think you can know with that much certainty what the future is going to look like. like I heard Jonah Van Borg talking about how you have something like Helium Network, right? It's probably not going to work.
But if it does, that's fucking.
But if it
so
does,
valuable.
it's like insanely valuable.
What's the do you know the market cap on Helium Network right now? Because that's something that like I'm interested in these types of things because this does actually have a function in life, and you're right. Like if this thing does work, then this would be incredibly valuable.
957 million, 1.5 billion fully diluted.
Yeah, it's very cheap. It's very cheap, and there are really no competitors for this exact use case. I mean,
it's interesting because unlike like layer 2s, right, which you can sort of copy pasta in a way, like I think that the barriers to entry for something like this are like way higher.
Like physical infrastructure.
Yeah,
physical.
like you've literally got people with like physical gateways or whatever
devices
like, in their homes. Like you can't just copy and paste the code. So it's worth noting that if this does work, like you're not gonna have everybody like nipping at your heels and like vampire attacking you, right? I think I don't know. Never say never. Really. I guess. I guess anything is possible. Like if there is enough margin in a market, the free market will come at you very hard, I guess, and compete that away,
sure.
even in ways that might seem crazy. But for a while, yeah, you would definitely print a lot of money on something like this. So yeah, it's an interesting project to me, not necessarily because I think it's technologically feasible. That's way above my pay grade, and probabilistically speaking, it's probably not. But like just the idea that we're trying things that are interesting and that like kind of need crypto for the use case, I think is cool.
Right. Yeah. I think this is like one of those things where it's like, oh, crypto's actually doing something outside of just having another decentralized exchange or some levered trading or some over collateralized lending protocol, what we've seen over and over and over and over and over again, and I'm just getting fucking tired of it.
Yeah. Well, don't get too tired, man. We're just getting
just getting started. Here we go.
I think we're just getting started.
Just run the same fucking playbook on every new L2 that gets launched. Just own the fucking same stupid shit.
Yeah, I wonder if we're just gonna run the 2021 L1 playbook, but with L2s now.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean we didn't even talk about how we get like Mantle and like jeez, Manta. What else we got? It's just there's a lot to buy already. Yeah, I wonder if I should just be making just a basket. It's my little basket of L2s. I just don't like watching too many positions. It's very easy for me to just watch Arbitrum and watch Optimism, and you can kind of manage those, and they have deep liquidity, they have perps, so if like push comes to shove and I need to just zero the whole thing out, I can just slide a bar over, and that's nice to be able to do that, but when you're in 30 coins, you're just
you're
just going with the market, man.
Yeah.
Wherever it takes you, you're not going to go in and out of those things, especially if you're buying them on chain.
Yeah, and I hate the spray and pray model. Like that's not my method.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, we talked about this a little on the pod last night, but the Trump cards, they're pumping.
What a call,
pumping
man.
Even more.
What a call. Up 100% since you called it?
More. We're at 0.3 ETH now.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. I did not size this big enough. I knew at the time I wasn't sizing it big enough. But I feel like there's also been times where I said that and I was correct to not size it that way.
Of course.
Like a couple of the trades that I've taken recently have not worked out. And I was very happy I didn't size them. But like I also just knew this one was going to work in a way I didn't know the other one.
I mean, when you buy something at like ETH dust, you kind of have to size it pretty fucking massive in order to move the needle.
Yeah,
right?
like one of the nice things about the Trump cards is that there's like 45,000 of them, which I think is kind of like a plus. It's like makes the market's like it's much more liquid. It's on Polygon, I think. So gas isn't as shitty. The creator earnings, not surprisingly, are at the max 10%.
10%? What the fuck? Is Trump the creator, or is this like some guy?
I imagine they came to him in a meeting like, "Sir, what would you like to set your creator earnings at?" He's like, "What?
Highest."
So would you like to set him at? He's like, "Yeah." You think he's like, "No, we don't want to burn anybody too badly. Let's put him at 5." No, he was like max.
Yeah.
Guys, things are so stupid. They. Is somebody who was not shy about sizing, by the way. Did you see the pudgy penguins lately?
No.
Oh my god. So pudgies are running up into 20 ETH now.
20?
Yeah.
Oh
Sold
my
this too early.
God.
God, I offloaded a gold kimono like during the summer for like 10 or 11 ETH, and I was like, that's a lot of money. I bought it for like 0.3, I feel like.
I mean, that is a lot of money.
Out.
That is a lot of money. It's a good gain, and you celebrate the gain.
I do have some little pudgies, which are 2 ETH each now.
What?
Yeah. And I got a couple of rogs still. But yeah, I'm like penguinless, and it feels sad because they're crushing. Anyway, there's a wallet apparently that dumped like a bunch of Fidenzas and Autoglyph and a whole bunch. It basically dumped like 325 ETH worth of NFTs and just bought like all the penguins.
No way.
So his 325 ETH of penguins. I feel like this is like a month or two ago. Now worth 1,200 ETH.
No way.
Hell of a trade. There's a man
way.
with.
So like the idea of grails and like
a man with conviction right there.
everything that you just mentioned, Fidenzas and Autoglyphs or whatever, those are all grails as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So the idea of grails is in question, or is pudgy a grail?
When penguin flip punk.
Right?
God, I mean, it's got to be a given now that they're flipping apes. Like, I mean, that was always a given to me. Oh yeah, the apes are done. 25 ETH.
25 ETH for a bored ape.
Yeah, 25 ETH for a bored ape. 18.29 for a pudgy.
No way.
Yeah. I want to do the mutant ape little pudgy spread trade. Seems like a good spread trade. Yeah, man, apes down bad. Down bad from the highs. Punks have just been chilling.
Yeah, so I think many episodes ago, you talked about your lack of conviction on the punk. Where do you stand now?
I just don't feel as good about Ethereum NFTs in a world with NFTs like Solana has basically proven that you can just have a really good NFT ecosystem in a different ecosystem. This idea of like ETH invincibility is kind of, I don't know. You're kind of just betting they're going to keep being the grail of like all NFTs, that everybody who ever wants to own an NFT is going to want to own a punk.
Right, like all these other NFTs are just means to get closer to punk.
Yeah, everybody's gonna want to they want to flip their pudgy into a punk, you know. And I don't know. It's an interesting question. It's just also like a lot of money to have in a JPEG.
It's
no matter how you slice it.
Yeah. Did you get your punk through buypunks.eth?
I did. Not buypunks.eth. Punks OTC.
Punks OTC. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, buypunks.eth is just he came out for drinks with us one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does he own a lot of punks?
He does. I think he made a bad trade last year where he dumped a bunch of stuff for DGods, which were just like the fail of the century because they basically left Solana at the bottom to come to Ethereum, and then Solana had a resurgence.
Solana NFTs are just mooning.
Just look like idiots. So like,
oof.
And now Solana's like, go fuck yourself. Don't come back. So,
yeah.
But made some other good trades. So hard to hate on the guy. But yeah, I think Punk Floor is doing okay. It's just not anything like Pudgy's.
Is this chartable on TradingView?
Yeah, you can look at the crypt. There's like a Punk token that basically tracks the floor. It's not perfect, but yeah, man, I'm hoping we get a move up in this stuff too. I think, is there a Peng token or a Pudgy? I don't know.
So you'd rather own the JPEG than the coins on that one? I mean, you're.
Oh
sort
man,
of-
I thought about just flipping it into a few penguins. A, because I thought they would go up more, and B, because like I think they're cute.
they are fucking
C, like
adorable.
it's easier to like have like 10 penguins and like sell 7 of them and still have a few and feel good.
Right.
It's tough, man. Like unless you have like a lot of money in punks, like it's really hard to part with them. And I already have PTSD from
Selling
my
that
punks a little
selling
too-
that other punk a little too early, but I mean, you're probably looking good on that now.
No,
No,
it's
that punk's back.
I sold that punk like right before Suzu just turbo pumped the whole like. I feel like a week before that happened. It was a very painful experience for me.
I don't think you made money on it, so I never get upset
I
making
was,
money.
like pretty early to those.
Yeah.
I was buying them when they were a few ETH.
Right.
Relatively early in the grand scheme of things. I mean, pretty early. That's pretty early. But yeah, paper-handed really hard. Used to have like 5 or 6 of them.
Damn.
I know. You just never know, man. What's gonna it all this stuff looks so obvious in hindsight, but then like once in a while, I'll go through my DBank and I'll just like look at all the dumb shit I bought. There's plenty of coins I bought that just went to zero. There's plenty of NFTs I bought that went to zero, and it's really easy to be like, oh my god, everything that's crap always turbo pumps, and I always leave money on it. It's just like not true, and there really is something to just buying the grail stuff. It's gonna go up a lot because it's crypto, and just like not sweating it too much. But people want to make the 100x, and you're just not gonna make that in Ethereum.
I think CryptoPunks are gonna have a massive resurgence. I don't own any. I feel comfortable in the coins. Like
If we can break like 75 floor on punks, which is just the little 40% pump from here. Actually, probably more. It's probably like a 60% pump.
wait, what's the floor right now?
I think it's like 58.
58.
But yeah, I think then we can kind of maybe turbo send again. But yeah, it's crazy. I never thought I'd see pudgies at 20.
That's insane.
Fuck, dude, I used to own like 20 penguins.
If pudgies can go to 20, I think CryptoPunks can go to 200.
Oh my god, I bought so many penguins for like 0.1 ETH when they first came out.
No, I remember when I remember because I was like all in on the CryptoPunks, and you were like, no, pudgies. And
Like
I
I
was
sold
like,
most of them probably around like 2 ETH. Like I like 10 to 20x most of them, and I felt pretty good about myself.
not anymore.
And when I think about the fact that I could have like a 600 ETH like penguin portfolio, it kind of hurts.
Oh yeah, that does suck.
Kind of hurts.
But you wouldn't have held it. You wouldn't have held it all the way through that. That was years.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had floors too, because like in the end, I only had like the Grail left, and like I saw liquidity, and I kind of took the liquidity because like if you don't sell those things and they're liquid, you can never sell them, and then maybe you just get desperate and dump them like for close to floor price, and that's not fun. But if I had some floors, I would have hung on. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, man. Try not to beat myself up over it so much.
Yeah, sorry for your 10x, dude.
Yeah. Tunsky says we can long pudgy short Bored Ape on Wasabi Protocol. I don't know what that is.
Is that right? You can actually short NFTs? Like, I didn't know that.
So much to learn. The NFT leverage protocol, huh? Just what we need. Leverage and options and NFTs.
Wow. People are gonna lose a lot of NFTs.
Damn,
this
bro,
way.
I can buy pudgy calls.
What? Hold on.
Hold up. What have you done to me? If I can buy calls on pudgy penguins, that might be, yeah. So people are like, wow, yeah. So people are like writing. Oh, I'm in the U.S. I can't look at. Oh, yeah. God damn it. I'll have to pop on the VPN next time.
Yeah, you're gonna have to travel to Spain.
That's interesting, man. No wrapped CryptoPunks on this. Damn. So people are writing call options on this. Could be a new calling for you, sir.
No, I'm intrigued. My NFT personal portfolio has gone down to almost nothing. I wish I could write some.
Tensky's saying we
covered
can
calls.
farm this too. This looks pretty sexy. I mean, it obviously looks like something that's going to blow up and destroy a lot of lives. But you know, the interface looks pretty good. I gotta give it to him. Yeah, maybe check that out, boys. Let's see. We got take a couple of chart requests before we go. If you guys want to drop them in the chat.
Cool.
Hookem wants winner.
Yeah.
How's winner doing? Is winner high beta arb?
Is it?
Is winner ETH beta squared? I don't know. I don't know. Winner protocol, casino on Arbitrum. We've been talking about this thing in the Alpha Discord since the very early days, the dollar days. Where is my USDC? There we go. Okay.
Pretty good looking chart.
Good looking weekly chart. Yeah. It looks like a good spot to buy.
What level are we at now?
We're at 10 cents now. Damn, this thing got up to 15 cents. Didn't even realize it. Holy crap, dude. Yeah, I bought this thing here. Like 2 cents.
I mean, I could probably look
It
this
looks
up.
so obvious in retrospect, huh?
What's the market cap on winner?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I could call it up in Dex Screener for you. It's probably like 10 mil. It's pretty low market cap.
That's insane if it's 10 mil.
Oh, 30 mil now. Damn. Oh, the hourly chart doesn't look good. Ooh, get it off my screen. Yeah, I still think this GambleFi stuff is really interesting and not even going to be something that really super pops off until we have more retail plebs in here, combined with maybe some better user interfaces, account abstraction and the like. But I think that's stuff we get this cycle. And, I see crypto as basically glorified gambling. So literally crypto gambling kind of makes sense.
I totally agree. And I feel like this is one of those things you could probably just hold for a while. Like it's a 30 million market cap. Like you just hold for 2 years beyond. Who cares?
All right. Tunsky's panicking about his ARB. So we'll pull out the ARB chart before we go. What do I do with my ARB? Buddy, come on. Just talk to me at like $100, okay? That's a good looking weekly chart. Look at this Chad weekly chart. You get like one little red candle there, and you one little blue
freaking out.
One little blue candle, and it's over. It's over. It's so over. No, I in all seriousness, I actually have a bunch of. I'm actually in the process of buying this coin because I have. I laddered a bunch of buys from like $1.50 to. I think the mid range of this actually. So yeah, so like $1.50 to $1.80. I have some buys laddered in. I think if we lose the 160 level or so, that's a really bad look. But yeah, I really like the risk reward on ARB here because, as I said, I think if Bitcoin holds here, alts are going to run really hard. ETH really, really wants to run. I think ETH really wants 3,600. I'm really hoping that we get $3,600 ETH in Q1. And I think I've outlined why this is possible. Not just on the ETH chart. That's basically that monthly high. But we also pulled up the ETH BTC chart and showed you how we could basically have a small move in Bitcoin, and then this chart looks really good. Like I personally think this chart wants all the way up back into the 0.09, right? That's 55% or so against Bitcoin from here. But even just like a return to the mid range or so, you're talking like a 25% gain. So you get like a 15-20% pump in Bitcoin from here, and then you get 25%, 30% on ETH versus Bitcoin from here, and then you could have like a really nice dollar handle on Ethereum. And
after March, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like everybody feels the way you do.
We'll see.
I don't know. I feel like you and I have this discussion a lot.
Well,
we're not like often on the. We're often like rowing the boat in different directions, which is good. Like you've always forced me to think about whether I'm being a moron.
Well, I don't think you're being a moron. I hold a fuckload.
I always think I'm being a moron.
I have a ton of ETH. Like, I just don't think it's going to go as quickly as you do. But I do think it's going to go.
Mm. Max said the ARB OP chart is interesting. I haven't looked at that in a while, actually. So let's see what that looks like. That is an interesting ratio, I think. Wow. I mean, I feel like I need more data in this. I mean, yeah. Is this interesting, Max? What's interesting about it? Tell me.
A lot of lower highs is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, possible reversal. I mean, OP has been very bullish versus ARB for a long time. But ARB has looked really good as of late. So definitely some outperformance there. It'd be interesting to see if it continues. Like, I've always been a big ARB fanboy because I've been using Arbitrum since the early days. I mean, Optimism too, but like for me, there's like never been anything to do on Optimism. Well, like, I feel like all the apps I know and love like live on Arbitrum.
Well, you like GMX on Arbitrum?
Yeah, you can like leverage trade like your face off with GMX.
I mean, I used that Lyra protocol, and I mean
it's fine.
Pretty
like,
awful.
All the calls
pretty
suck,
awful.
You know,
I hated
Arbitrum has shitty calls.
I hated it. I mean,
options rather, shitty options too. So it's like a push. I mean, Synthetics has been on OP, so that's been like an interesting point.
I feel like that Quenta trading interface is pretty nice.
BookieBot's coming to Arbitrum.
Wow.
Talk to the dev.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. I'm excited. He's just building stuff, man. He's just building. He's just biddling.
Love to see it.
Biddle it and they will come.
He's biddling and I'm hodling.
Yeah. I got my lotto bags. We're packed. We'll see if it works out. I hope it does. Yeah, Max says OP has base. That's their biggest thing. Yeah, with Optimism, you have the tithings, right? That you, as a chain, you pay to the collective for using the OP super chain thing. I don't know. I think that's definitely something people are buying. Like, oh yeah, OP is kind of base. You guys know I'm a fan of the cat coin as well, much to David's dismay, but it is what it is. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much value comes from base to Optimism. Huge TBD. Good narrative. Ali, is Rune a good buy? I have not looked at the Rune chart in a while. I remember we looked at it on an early episode, and I was just like kicking myself because it was just running so hard.
I used to love this token.
Well, that's not what you want to see. Damn. Yeah, Rune is 43% off the high, which I guess is not a big deal if you rode this from the bottom for a 650% gain. Just crying into the pile of dollar bills. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to find a level on this, right? It just went up so fast, and now it's just going down so fast. I am sort of looking for like the momentum to kind of stall out a little bit to the downside. I would like to buy in like a discount if I can. So, below this level.
What was even the narrative on this? So this was like cross-chain Bitcoin holders can like, I don't know, just move their wealth somewhere else.
I don't know if that was exactly.
Well, but I feel like what it used to do, it seems like there's just like a lot of methods now to do what Thorchain does.
Yeah. Do I have an RSI? This is like actually a good use of the RSI. Actually, I don't use it a ton, but one thing you can do on a chart like this is you can start waiting for like the RSI on the daily to put in like higher lows as the price chart is putting in lower lows. And you can see that on the RSI, like we're still putting in lower lows on the RSI as price is putting in lower lows. So I would look for what we call a divergence, like a bullish divergence. So as momentum sort of wanes to the downside, you will see price put in a lower low, but the RSI put in a higher low. And that could be an interesting trigger to, to look to start accumulating or possibly enter into, balls to the wall.
Would you use the same? Would you use the same methodology on other things we looked at today that are down bigly, like Coinbase stock?
Yeah. I think the RSI divergence is really interesting when you have price just kind of free falling into like a really big zone with no obvious levels. I think it's kind of like an interesting thing to fall back on. I also don't use RSI a lot because you can kind of see it in the price action, and so some of the stuff I use like fair value gaps and displacement, right? It's sort of like, this is sort of like a stand-in for that in a way, but like you can use it programmatically, I guess, if you have strategies in a way that you can't use what I do. So all the stuff has its merits, and I know a lot of people who trade using it, and it works for them, but it's usually like a supplement to a system as opposed to like the system in and of itself. Ali said Eric Voorhees behind this project. Yes, this is a Eric Voorhees thing. Isn't Eric Voorhees in trouble with Zach XBT now? I saw he was maybe doing some shady shit, moving some money around. I don't know. That was the last tweet I saw. That was like a week ago. So fact check me on that if that is not the same thing. All right, Calcium. I'm gonna look at this is the last one. I'm gonna look at IMX because I've been thinking about maybe buying Immutable myself. I have a tiny bag. I did one of my little starter bags and it just kind of ran away, which is a good problem to have, I guess. Yeah, similar chart to Coin, right? Just up only, and then there's this big zone, like sub 160 or so, that you kind of feel good buying in. Yeah, I would be doing a similar thing on this chart. I don't know if these lows are safe, to be honest. I would love to maybe see like some sort of sweep of all this and then like a reclaim. That might be an interesting trigger. But otherwise, yeah, kind of a tricky thing to get in on, right? Like a lot of coins look like this. They just moved up so fast. They never really put in like obvious demand zones, and then they just kind of free fall once they top out. So yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it. I'll let you guys know if I see anything super interesting. Anyway, that is going to be it for me. Went a little longer. I am now late for pickleball. Oh no. Thank you guys for dealing with us. Real apologies for the audio in the beginning. I don't know if we're gonna be able to edit that out. We're probably just gonna have to leave that as is. So if you stayed the whole time,
yeah,
thank you for that.
My bad. That's my bad.
We'll plug in the mics next time. Advanced strategies. If you're listening to this, please sub on YouTube at Irresponsibly Long Pod, and consider joining us live. It helps us out, or watch on YouTube so you can see the beautiful charts. And yeah, if you're not already, join us in the Alfalfa Pod Discord. All links at alfalfapod.com, right? I got that, alfalfapod.com. And you can find me on Twitter. Find Eric on Twitter. I don't know if he tweets things, but
I don't tweet things.
But I do. I tweet things. Big, beautiful things. Things that make everybody's life better. Anyway, thanks, guys. Love having you here with us. We will see you back same time next week.
See you next week.
5 Pacific time on YouTube live.
Yep.
All right. Later, guys.
Adios, everybody.